she played the clip of him testifying before Congress, you can't understand a word this guy's saying. It's all gibberish. And she says to him, what does that mean? And he basically says, well, he admits that he was blowing smoke to throw Congress off the trail, basically figuring that congressmen don't know anything about the feds. You just throw some words around and they'll feel like, oh, okay, well, sorry we asked. He even called his own tactic, he called it syntax destruction. So he admits on national television that I was just blabbering about nothingness to your elected representatives. I'm not an elected representative, I'm some jerk who used a former saxophone player in charge of deciding what interest rates should be. And this doesn't terrify anybody. Wonko the sane. That's who we all are. We're all Wonko the sane. And right now, we are outside the asylum in this room right here. Or the war propaganda. I mean, come on. Everybody in the world knew that the phony baloney war propaganda for the Iraq war was phony baloney war propaganda. And then the argument the neocons make is, but all the other intelligence agencies thought that Saddam... Yeah, because they're getting their information from the U.S. You don't? I mean, obviously they don't think that. They're getting their information from the same wires, of course. But when you think about the human cost of this, and I used to be totally oblivious to this when I was younger, I used to think of U.S. military intervention, I used to think, yeah, this is like an awesome video game I can watch from my house, and yeah, this is great. But then you realize that, especially in a case like this, where these people who are being attacked, they haven't done a thing to us. They couldn't do a thing to us. In Afghanistan, the vast majority of these people, if you interview them, they don't even know 9/11 occurred. They never even heard of this thing. I mean, these are real, these are human things. This is not garbage. You can just treat like garbage. And these people who dare to call themselves conservative, which was once a dignified name for humane and civilized people, like Russell Kirk, who would never in his worst nightmare have endorsed this type of war propaganda. They just accept this. They lecture us about moral relativism. You libertarians are all moral relativists. You think you can make up your own morality. And yet when it comes to foreign policy, they are the biggest moral relativists of all. If the U.S. government tells me it's okay, then darn it, it's okay. They must have some inside information or something. But don't even tell me about it. Don't even tell me. I don't even want to hear it. And you wonder, am I the only sane one here? Now, why do we feel this way? The reason is we belong to and we constitute the remnant. Now, Ron Paul speaks about this once in a while, and I want to finish up by explaining what he means. The remnant is a reference to a great essay by Albert J. Nock, this old right figure from the middle part of the 20th century, the first half of the 20th century. And Nock wrote this famous essay, beautiful essay, called Isaiah's Job. And now Nock, to my knowledge, was an agnostic. He was not a religious man. But he borrowed Isaiah from the Bible. And he renders the instructions that the Lord gives to Isaiah in sort of modern American vernacular. And I'm going to share this with you now. And as I share it with you, it's going to become clearer and clearer exactly who we are and what our role is. So, this is Nock. The Lord commissioned Isaiah to go out and warn the people of the wrath to come. Tell them what a worthless lot they are. He said, tell them what is wrong and why and what is going to happen unless they have a change of heart and straighten up. Don't mince matters. Make it clear that they are positively down to their last chance. Give it to them good and strong and keep on giving it to them. I suppose perhaps I ought to tell you that it won't do any good, the Lord continued in the vernacular of Nock. The official class and their intelligentsia will turn up their noses at you, and the masses will not even listen. They will all keep on in their own ways until they carry everything down to destruction, and you will probably be lucky if you get out with your life. Well, Isaiah had been very willing to take on this job, but when this prospect was explained to him, it put rather a new face on the situation, and it raised the obvious question, if the enterprise is doomed from the start, if no one's going to listen to me, why even bother? And the Lord said, again in the Nock vernacular, you are missing the point. There is a remnant there that you know nothing about. They are obscure, unorganized, inarticulate, each one rubbing along as best he can. They need to be encouraged and braced up, because when everything has gone completely to the dogs, they are the ones who will come back and build up a new society. And meanwhile, your preaching will reassure them and keep them hanging on. Your job is to take care of the remnant. So be off now and set about it.
Wow.
Now do you see? In some ways, we are all following in these footsteps. Now the temptation, which is always there, is to reach as many people as possible by watering the message down. But by doing that, you accomplish nothing and you repel the remnant. You can change minds. That's not ruled out. But it's self-defeating to do so by diluting the message. And now, I conclude this section by reading how Knox describes what Isaiah did, and see if you recognize in this a certain person we all admire. Isaiah preached to the masses only in the sense that he preached publicly. Anyone who liked might listen. Anyone who liked might pass by. He knew that the remnant would listen. He made no specific appeal to mainstream opinion, did not accommodate his message to their measure in any way, and did not care two straws whether they heeded it or not. As a modern publisher might put it, he was not worrying about circulation or about advertising. Hence, with all such obsessions quite out of the way, he was in a position to do his level best without fear or favor, and answerable only to his august boss. And that's what Ron Paul does, and that's who he is. He doesn't say to the public the things they want to hear, like, "You Americans are the awesomest of the awesome, and the only reason anyone in the world might be unhappy with your government is because of your sheer awesomeness." He won't do it. Now, as Jason Rink said, thanks to the Internet, we have a far greater prospect of tracking down the remnant than ever before. On a scale we never thought possible. We can find these people now. They can find us now. And you and I are part of the remnant. And to echo what Jason said, you have to ask yourself, this is not a throwaway line, what is my role? What is my role in the remnant? What am I going to do? And there are a lot of different things you could do. There are a lot of skills you might have that could be put to the service of some worthy group and some worthy venture. And I want to offer to you two action items tonight. Now, one of them I'm afraid you'll find to be self-serving, but anytime I work on something for at least a year, I have to tell people about it. After all the long hours away from the family. I decided, I figured out what my niche is. It was very easy to figure it out because, and this is not just artificial, self-deprecating humor. I'm only good at one or two things. And I'm not just putting myself down, but I really stink at everything. I can't sing. I can't fix anything. My car, as far as I know, angels make my car run. I have no idea. I get a flat tire, I gotta call AAA. I don't know. I don't know. There's a jack. How does this even work? I'm just hopeless. I was the last guy getting full-serve gas until I just finally stopped doing it. I had to figure it out. I can't do, people who are carpenters absolutely blow my mind. These people seem like magicians to me. I have no idea how this is done. And that's beautiful, by the way, to have that moment where you really appreciate the division of labor. You appreciate other people. Other people are doing things that if I had 3 lifetimes, I couldn't do. So I better focus on the one thing that I can do. The one thing I can do is write. I write like crazy. I can't stop myself. I write and write. But also I explain things. This is one thing I'm going to take credit for, is that because I was the guy who in high school, whenever there was a basketball player that was at risk of being kicked off the team for academic reasons, they sent him to Woods. Woods will teach that guy math. And I would sit down with the people on the women's team, the men's team, and I would teach them the math, and they would pass. And the coaches thought, okay, I used to want to make fun of this guy and give him a wedgie. But now I got hand it to him. He's saving my players. I don't know what he's doing. But basically, the way I do it was just, I thought to myself, when I was trying to understand this crazy stuff, what was the stuff I wish my teacher had said to me from the start so I wouldn't have had to have 3 hours struggling to figure it out? What were the things I wish, if only the teacher just said this to me from the beginning, I would have gotten them. Well, I just say those things to people, and they say, oh yeah, well, my teacher didn't explain it that way. All right, I can explain things. I can write and I can explain things. So what I've been working on is something that I just premiered last month. Because I figure not anytime soon are the universities going to stop teaching propaganda, and the high school's going to stop teaching propaganda. So I thought, instead of just whining, hey, the universities are teaching propaganda, that stinks. get off.